My name is Zack Eswine, and I'm a pastor in St. Louis, Missouri. I've been serving there for the last 17 years, and my wife and I, in connection with the church, started a ministry called Sage Christianity, and we have our 4 children and 2 grandchildren. And I was asked about how it was I came to know the Lord, and the long story short would be coming from a broken family life and meeting some folks in high school who began to ask me about Jesus, and then meeting a campus minister with the Navigators named Bob Smart on a university campus. And Bob and Karen Smart loved me well and enabled me to see Jesus, and that's how I came to know him. So I've written this book, Wiser with Jesus, and when I'm asked why did I write it, I think about, to begin with, because I began to realize that I'm more foolish and naive than I knew, and coming to realize out of my own sense of being crushed in spirit in my life that I've needed a great deal of help from the Lord. But as a pastor for the last 3 decades, I've also come to realize that other people too are more foolish or naive or more broken than they'd like to be. And a lot of us haven't really had good names for what this is. And I came to realize that I had a wisdom deficit in my life and that I wasn't alone. And so began to look at God's Word and how He teaches us wisdom through really helpful things like comparing 2 houses, or introducing 4 different kinds of companions that will meet along the way in life. And I began to find those so helpful. And then also how each of these houses and companions point us forward to the person of Jesus. And the most amazing thing is that when we're asking for wisdom, we're really asking for a person, and his name is Jesus. Well, this book is really for any person who's seeking to get closer to Jesus and to know more about Jesus, to follow him. It's particularly helpful for relationships. So any of us, parent and child, niece and nephew with aunts and uncles, ministry leaders on campuses or in churches, the relationships that we have, and getting to learn and apprentice with Jesus and what it means to wisely love each other and why it is we struggle to do that. But it's also helpful for transitions in life, when we're having to make decisions and when we're needing to think about time, when we're looking at our purpose. This book is of help to us because it sets the wisdom of God in front of us through Jesus and can help us there. I'd say finally, it's also helpful for the seasons of life, whether we're young or we have gray hairs or we're in old age. There's wisdom to be had that God gives us. He's so kind to provide for us just what we need to light our path, and he does it out of his great love for us. One of the things that surprised me most in writing this book was to learn that wisdom is a love. I did not expect that. And that becomes transformative for us when we get a handle on it. In Proverbs chapter 1, it just says, how long, O simple, will you love being simple? How long, O scoffer, will you delight in your scoffing? How long, O fool, will you hate knowledge? There's this language of love, delight, and hate. Wisdom is a love. Well, there's a lot to say about that, but the implications are something like this. I always knew that we could hurt one another, sin against one another, by incongruence. That is, we were hypocrisy is what it was. I would say that I believed or loved one thing when I really didn't. Or I would say I didn't love or believe one thing when I really did. And this kind of incongruence, we hurt one another with it. And so the reaction or the response is to say, look, we just need to love each other from the heart. If we just loved authentically, then everything would be okay. But the surprise for me in the wisdom literature of the Bible is that we can also damage each other with our congruence. And that is, it goes something like this. If I have folly in my heart, and I relish and reach for folly, that is, I love foolishly, then if I love you authentically with all my heart, I'm loving you authentically with all my folly. And if I have a naive heart and I want to love you with all my heart, then I bring you all the materials of my naivete into your life genuinely. And so we might sit with a pastor or a counselor or a wise friend, and we might say something like, well, my parent never loved me, or my best friend just doesn't love me. And a wise counselor would say, well, maybe they do love you. It's just they're loving you foolishly, or they're loving you naively. And now we're setting up a contrast, which the wisdom does, with the steadfast love of the Lord, in contrast to the various loves and unloves at work in our lives. And where wisdom actually leads us is to the steadfast love of God. Let he who is wise meditate on this. The steadfast love of the Lord endures forever.